Hey, this is James, and in this video, I'm continuing to share how I work with Kipper cards, so stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining me for this viewer-requested video. This video was inspired by one of my viewers who recently asked me if I would be willing to share how I work with and read Kipper cards. And the viewer asked me specifically to share some basic spreads that they could put into practice. So this is actually the third in what's now becoming a series. I didn't anticipate at the beginning, but it's become a series. And so in the first of these videos, I demonstrated what I call the line of sight spread. And in the second, more recent video, I demonstrated what I call the Kipper cross spread. In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating, building on aspects of those two readings, I'm going to be demonstrating what's called the landing strip spread. As a life coach, I also call it the bridging the gap spread. So the deck that's going to be assisting me for this video is once again the Roaring Twenties Kipper. The deck is by Lynn Boyle, and I will be leaving a link to more information about the deck in the description box below. So now that I've set things up, let's now move to the table and take a closer look at just how we lay out the landing strip spread. And here we are with the cards on the table, and for the landing strip spread, you're going to need to pull two cards from the deck. One being is that you're going to need, and this is something we've talked about in previous videos, is that you're going to need the card that represents the significator, which means that this is going to represent the subject of the reading. So if the reading is for a woman or about a woman, you would need the woman card or main person 2. If the subject of the reading is a man or it's for a man, then you would need the man card or main person 1. And this would be either the gender that the person is or the gender that the person identifies as, one or the other, right? But you would need one of these two cards first. So I'm going to put these back down because the next card you would need is that you would need to pick a card that represents the goal that the person wants to achieve. Right, so I'm going to go through the deck to give you some examples. So for instance, because the facing card right now is the partnership or the marriage card, if somebody wanted to be married or move towards marriage, then you would pick this card. This would be the goal. If a person was maybe in school and is looking to graduate with a diploma or certification, because this card can represent achievement, and I'm playing on the idea that the image looks like graduation, then you could use this as the goal. Now, if somebody also was seeking a promotion on the job with their career, then you could also use this card. Courthouse, if a person wanted to, have justice being done in a situation, whether that's in the literal sense, they're actually dealing with a legal matter or legal proceedings, or if it's justice in the more metaphorical sense, then you would pick the courthouse because courthouse can represent justice, right? If a person wanted to focus on financial increase as their goal, then you could use the abundance card. That's one of the meanings of this card. I'm picking some other ones. If a person wanted to, maybe with a startup in terms of a business, then you could use child because child can represent something new, the beginning of something or the start of something. Or if somebody wanted to have a child, then you could use a little child card. So that if somebody wanted a successful outcome in matters of the heart, you could pick success in love, right? So I'm just going through and just picking, but you get the idea. If somebody was looking for work, then the work occupation card would be the goal that they are trying to achieve. So you want to pick the second card to represent the goal, right? So you would need those two cards. Again, the first card would represent the subject of the reading, and then the second card from the deck would represent a goal that they're trying to achieve. Now, for this demonstration, for this first example, I'm going to go with a situation in which we have a woman named Jackie And Jackie is looking to meet that special someone, that special man. So I'm going to let the man card represent that special man, right? Jackie's not in a relationship right now, but she's moving, or she wants to move towards, getting that guy, landing that guy, meeting that guy, right? So he's going to represent the goal that Jackie is trying to achieve. So we have the two cards. And then what you want to do then is once you have your two cards, then you want to shuffle the cards, focusing on what the person needs to either know or do to meet the goal, to achieve the goal. So you want to shuffle that into the cards. So I'm going to do one more time. All right. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck. And because the subject matter is not about me, I'm going to cut away from me, which is what I do when I read for other people. Put the cards back together, and then I'm going to fan them out. And now what you want to do is you want to pull anywhere from 3 to 7 cards. What I like to do is I like to pull 5. So I'm going to look for 5 cards in the fan that are getting my attention. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I have my 5 cards. I'm going to pull the remainder of the deck to one side. All right. And then what I like to do is count back to make sure. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That I have the number of cards, that my counting was not off. And then once I have my cards, I'm going to put them aside, because the first thing you want to do is you want to come back to the card that represents the person and the goal. And you want to lay them out. And this is where a line of sight comes into play, because since I have both cards that represent the man and the woman here, so if your subject is the woman and the woman is facing to the right or looking to the right, this is where line of sight comes in, right? You're going to lay the other cards, the remaining cards, from left to right. If your subject is a man and he's facing to the left, you want to place your cards from right to left, right? So again, this is the way we incorporate the line of sight reading that we did in the very first video of this series, right? So again, it just depends on the direction that the person is looking to, right? Because you want to lay the cards in conjunction with that they're looking ahead. They're looking down the road towards their goal, right? Okay, so once you have those cards laid out, then you want to take the cards that you've pulled and you want to lay them out, starting with the card. First card goes underneath the person card, starting off the line, right? And then each card gets laid towards the goal card. And notice what I did there. So the first card is underneath the subject card. And then the last card is underneath the goal card, right? And so this represents a line moving towards the goal, right? So this is where the person is at the time of the reading. And this is what they either need to know or do to move towards the goal. As a coach, I call this bridging the gap. This line of cards represents the gap, getting the person, from where they are to where they want to be, right? And each card helps narrow the gap or bridge the gap, right? So that's another way to look at it. You could call this the bridging the gap spread, and I just made that up on the fly, right? So now what you want to do is you want to start reading the cards from the subject card and then move down the line to the goal card or towards the goal card. So starting things off. Now remember, the situation is we have a woman, Jackie. She wants to know what she needs to either know or do to meet that special guy, right? So now the first card here is saying that Jackie would need to. Okay, so now here's an interesting thing. So now here we have one of the people cards in the deck. We have older woman, right? So older woman could suggest that there is a woman who's going to be playing a role or a part in the situation that's older than Jackie. Older woman always represents someone older than main person female, or in this particular case, the woman card, right? Now, this could also be, too, the woman, older woman, can represent something having to do with the past, playing on the idea of older, right? So this could just be, what has she overcome in her past regarding relationships, and then with that, then it's a way of becoming more mature, right? Older can represent a pun for older and wiser, right? So this could represent, on some level, there's something that she may have to overcome that has to do with the past, but maybe looking at it in a way in which she has gained some kind of maturity. So that would be older woman. Or it could literally mean that there's an older woman who's going to play a part in offering her some assistance, because older woman can represent someone who's helpful to the woman. So this may be her enlisting someone's aid to help her in this regard. So there could be an older woman in the literal sense who's going to be playing a part in this, right? And usually in Kipper cartomancy, the closer that a card like older woman is to the subject card, the more helpful the person will be, right? So there's two ways of looking at it. She could look at what has she overcome in her past, older woman, as a way of gaining some maturity and experience to help her move forward. And then the second one would be an actual older woman, someone who's got maybe some wisdom, some experience in helping her meet that special someone, right? So that is older woman. Now, older woman is also a direction card. She's also looking to the right. So she's looking toward this card. So it's going to be very interesting to see the connection here. So now let's take a look at that card now, since I built it up. And here we have success and love. Now this is great because this also plays a role or a part in the situation, right? Jackie wants to be successful in a matter of the heart, in something having to do with love, right? So now, one of the things that Jackie would need to know, because now remember the question was twofold. What does she either need to know or do, right? So the first thing, what she needs to know is that she needs to have faith and trust in herself. One of my meanings for this card is about faith and trust. And it's either faith and trust in ourselves or faith and trust in other people, right? So if there is an older woman who wants to be a part of the situation for her, then the older woman wants to be helpful. Remember, someone who wants to be helpful in helping her achieve success in love. Now this card can also be about friendship. So this could be somebody who is a friend, an older woman who's a friend to Jackie. Right, but again, the intention of the older woman is that she wants to see, she's looking at this, she wants to see her friend, success in love, become successful or have a good outcome in this endeavor. Right, and this could also be somebody who's loyal, somebody who's faithful, somebody that Jackie has a great deal of trust in. Right, she trusts her opinion, that kind of thing. But somebody who she has a great deal of faith and trust in, somebody who is loyal, somebody who's a good friend. But the other thing here could be that Jackie needs to have faith and trust in herself. And two, if we're talking about the past, right, in terms of love situations, past situations, then she needs to move forward with faith and trust, right? Not to let the past diminish that in any way. Right, so that's how I would look at older woman and success in love. Now let's take a look at the middle card, moving forward. Okay, so now here we have a long way. So this card for me can represent, a long road to go or a long time off. This for me is about time and distance. The chief meaning right now is that Jackie needs to have some kind of approach, right? This would suggest the road that she's traveling down, the path that she's on. So this card could just be about, taking a look at how she's choosing to approach the situation, right? This card is all about the path that we're on, the road that we're traveling, right? But it can also be, for Jackie, it's about being patient. right? So not to rush the process, to give it time, right? Especially if she wants to be successful, right? If she wants to be successful at it, then she needs to develop patience, and she also needs to understand that it may be well worth the time and effort, you know, if she gives it time, if she's patient, right? So that's how I would look at a long way. Now let's look at the card next to a long way, and we have, okay, this is great. Okay, so now we have change, and change represents a change in circumstances, right? And it represents movement. This is a movement card, and it would suggest moving forward because we have the vehicle moving towards the right. So it's literally moving from this a long way to this card, right? But the chief meaning of a change is that it represents a change in circumstances. Right, and I find it very interesting is that we have a card that represent roads, actual roads, and then a card, excuse me, that can represent a car or a vehicle, like the road that we're traveling down. It's still mentioning that. But it could also suggest that there may be some sort of change that Jackie's going to need to make along the way, right? If she wants to be successful in love, there may be some sort of change that she needs to make along the way. So now let's see what comes after change. Now the nice thing about this card coming after a long way is that change, like I said, is a movement card. So there's movement here, right? Which is good to see. So what are we moving towards? Look at this. We are moving towards good news. Look at that. So good news represents good news. It's also a card that represents communication and all forms of communication. So if we're talking about a change in circumstances or what may need to change, then what could change here is that Jackie realizes that there may be something having to do with the way that maybe she's communicated in the past, right, with potential partners. And she realizes that if she wants to be successful in love, she needs to make a change regarding the way she communicates, right? And it could even be the way she communicates with herself. If there's problems with, faith and trust in herself, how can she change her self-talk, right? If this is all forms of communication, then this could be the way we communicate with ourselves, right? But now, the interesting thing here is if you notice, we have good news underneath the man card. So now remember, this is the goal. So this is about getting to a place where we are moving towards some sort of communication with a man. Right, so that's nice. So it could just be saying too, like if we go with a long way, this card being in the middle is making me feel like her patience is going to be rewarded or it's going to pay off because we have good cards coming after a long way. Right, so the biggest thing here could be Jackie taking a good look at the way she approaches the situation, right? Maybe taking a look at her history, older woman, the past, and seeing what could she be doing differently, what could she be doing better to be successful in love. So that is how I would read the line, but this is very positive, right? Jackie, with the aid of an older woman, somebody who's a friend that wants to see her be successful in love, they said about putting her on the path, so to speak, and that changes things. It moves her in a direction where she starts communicating with a man. I love this. So that is how I would read this card, or the cards, for Jackie and her situation. So now let's do one more and we'll switch genders, and this time we'll do a situation that involves a man and the goal that he wants to achieve. All right, and we are back. And what I did was I took the liberty of putting the woman card back in the deck, leaving the man card out. And as I was doing that, this is the situation that came to me off camera in my mind. So we will run this as the scenario for this second and final reading for this video. So we have the man card out, and so this is going to represent our seeker. So let's just call him John. So John has this dream of being able to live and travel abroad. So let's say he's in the States, the United States. And so his dream, like I said, is about living and traveling abroad. And so the card for me that would represent that goal is, in traditional Kipper cartomancy, it's known as Hope Big Water. And for me, that represents goals, it represents dreams, and it represents things that are foreign or abroad. So in this deck, it's called Yearning and Abroad. So that's the card I'm looking for. And here it is. So this is Yearning and Abroad. Like I said, in traditional Kipper cartomancy, it's known as Hope Big Water, right? And so the thing about the image is that it has water on the card. So this is where the foreign or the abroad aspect comes in, things being overseas, right? So again, so we have the man card is going to represent John, our seeker, and then this is going to represent his goal, being able to live and travel abroad. Okay, so now that we have the two cards, and very interesting, I just noticed, this is just a little haha. So we have the first card in the deck, main person 1, and the last card in the deck, the first card and the last card, card number 36. And they're going to be on opposite ends, so that's funny. All right, so we have the situation, right? John wants to know, what does he either need to know or do about his dream, about living and traveling abroad. So that's the situation. So I'm shuffling that into the cards. All right, so let's go ahead and cut the deck. And again, because this is a situation that does not involve me directly, I'm cutting away. I'm going to fan the cards out. And again, remember, when you're doing this, the cards that represent what's going to be taking place between the subject and the goal can be anywhere between 3 to 7 cards. I'm going to pick 5 like I did in the last example for Jackie. So I have 2, 3, I'm looking for 2 more, 4, and this one got me for 5. So those are the cards. Taking the remainder of the deck up, I'm going to put that to one side. All right, now I'm going to count back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so now we have the 5 cards, right? So we're going to take John, put him on to the far right, because again, line of sight, he's looking to the left, so we put him on the right side, and then the goal on the opposite end. Right, and now we're going to lay the cards now. We're going to go in the opposite direction that I laid the cards down for the first example with Jackie, because our subject is on the right. So we're going to read the cards from right to left this time, going with the line of sight. So those are the cards representing the line. I'm just taking a moment to look in the viewfinder here to make sure that it's somewhat straight. Okay. You know what, I'll move these up just a little bit. All right. Yeah, I like that better. Okay. So now we have the cards laid out. So again, we start with the card that's underneath the subject card, right? So taking a look at the first card, we have, okay, so here we have living room. So living room is a card that can represent privacy, it can represent intimacy, it could represent a room, right? So this could just represent something that John is living with, right? because I'm playing on the idea of living room. So this could be something that maybe he hasn't communicated or shared with a lot of people, something that he's keeping private in terms of the goal or the wish or the dream, right? But it would suggest on some level, if he's talking about living abroad, then living room can represent a small space. So this could be, something like an apartment. Rather than a house, it could be something like an apartment or a flat. It would represent a smaller amount of space. So the first thing that's coming to me would suggest, going with the idea about a small space, the possibility here is that John may have to think about downsizing, right? If we're going with the idea that this is about a small space or a room, right? It could suggest in terms of living abroad, if he wants to live and travel abroad, he might not need as much space as he thinks, right? Because this represents a small amount of space, right? So this could be twofold. Number one, at the beginning, since it's at the beginning of the line, at the beginning for John, it may be about keeping the hope or the wish or the dream to himself. Again, this is about privacy. But it could also be, too, like John realizing that he doesn't need a whole lot of space or stuff, to be able to live and travel abroad, right? It would be like in terms of living quarters, it would have to be something small, right? So that's the first thing that I'm getting with living room. So now let's see what's next to living room. The next card here is a gift. Okay, so here would be a card that represents an offer being presented, because I tend to look at gift as something that's being presented to us. And the word present is a pun or a play on gift. That's another word for a gift. So this would just have to represent something being offered to John that would be helpful to him in terms of reaching his goal. So now the first thing that comes to me when we're talking about traveling and living abroad, the gift can represent a holiday. So, sometimes people talk about going on holiday. So for John, it could be a matter of, staying with someone in a room, like, living with somebody, who has a spare room for him, if they offer it to him. So it makes me feel like, some opportunity is going to be presented to him that would help him with this dream. It makes me feel like maybe for a holiday or an upcoming holiday that he would, be staying with somebody, because a room is what's being offered. If we go with the idea that a gift represents something that's being offered and living room comes before it, then that could be the very thing that's being offered to him, right? So it makes me feel like the next time John may be on holiday, he may want to think about staying with somebody, especially if a room is being presented to him, right? But again, the gift represents, a gift, a present. I tend to look at it as an offer being presented, but it can also represent a party, a celebration, or a holiday. So now let's take a look at the middle card. Middle card. Ah, yes. So here we have partnership. So this card can represent a commitment. This card can represent an agreement. This card could represent another person being involved in the process, right? Because we have two men on the card. So this could be a male friend to John, right? So this would make me feel like somebody he has some kind of significant relationship to, because partnership can represent a serious relationship. So somebody he has some serious connection to, and also too, partnership is a connection card, who is willing to be making the offer, because partnership is a connector card. So it connects a gift, right? It's connecting to a gift. So it would be saying to, like, whatever this offer that's being presented to John for a room or about a room possibly is connected to somebody he has already established a relationship with, right? So this wouldn't be a new relationship. This would be somebody he already knows and has a strong connection to, right? And going with the idea that there are two men on the card, it would make me feel like maybe this is a male friend, right? But this is all about commitment. So if it's saying too, like, if John really wants to do this, he needs to be committed, seriously committed, to allowing this to become more than just a dream, right? It's about making the dream a reality, but he has to have some kind of commitment in it. right? So there's two possibilities there. Number one, when the offer is being presented to him, if it's talking about a room being presented to him, traveling on a holiday from a friend that he already knows and has an established relationship with, he needs to seriously consider taking that, right? But the other thing here is that this card at the heart of the line could represent, being seriously committed to the idea or to the endeavor. So like I said, partnership is a connector card. So it connects a gift to whatever this card is. So let's take a look at that card now. And here we have, oh my goodness. So here we have great happiness. If you're no stranger to these Kipper videos, you know that great happiness is the best card in the deck. Right? So here we have partnership connecting a gift, an offer, an opportunity being presented with great happiness. This is blessings, abundance, good luck, good fortune. And here's the thing. This card is so wonderful. It shines a positive light on all the cards. And especially, I'm saying this because we have one card left to look at, especially if this last card is a challenging card, it's going to weaken that. It's going to lighten it up, right? It's going to reduce its impact, because that's how good this card is. But this card is about blessings. This card is about abundance, good luck, big luck. Not just good luck, but big luck. And great fortune. Oh, I love it. So these are great cards to have connecting, to be connected by partnership, great happiness, and a gift. So now let's see what the last card is. And remember now, it's underneath yearning and abroad. Okay, so here we have work occupation. So one of the things that could happen here is that the best way that John could be able to live and travel abroad is possibly through work or his occupation. So there could be a sense of an offer being presented to him that would allow him to maybe relocate or work abroad, and that would be how he gets to live his dream, right? Now, the other thing with work occupation, if it's not in the literal sense, like it's actual work that allows him to go abroad, right? To go abroad to live and to travel, then it could be something that he has to work at, because this card can represent work. And if you look at the image, I'll hold it up again. If you look at the image, we have some people out in the field working hard. So this card can sometimes represent physical labor or manual labor, which is a nice pun for saying hard work, right? So if he works hard, right, and again, we have this idea, it's about not just having the idea or being in love with the idea, but being committed to the idea, and then as a result of the commitment, doing the work that's necessary to achieve the goal, right? So this would be about doing the work it takes to achieve the goal. If it's not like the offer being presented actually has to do with something having to do with his working life or his occupation, right? Again, very nice cards, especially with great happiness here. So for John, if John is committed and he works hard at it, he can actually make this happen. It makes me feel like two things are going to happen. One is that he may get an offer presented to him that allows him to stay with someone, because the living room can represent small quarters or a room, with someone that he has an established relationship with. And it may be someone who's connected to him through work or an occupation. It could be also to a relationship that is with someone who is already overseas or abroad. Right? So these two cards are making me feel like if there's something about his work where he's in the United States, so if there's something that he's doing domestically, is there an international or an overseas or a foreign aspect of the work where he could relocate? Right? And if there is, how can he look into that? Because it may play out that way. But the biggest thing I would say to John is it's about being committed to it and then doing what he needs to do in terms of work to make it happen, because it may require some hard work. But with great happiness in the line, oh, this is like done, right? If he does these two things, he's good. And so I will wrap up John's reading on that note. And I will also wrap up this video. So this has been the landing strip readings video using the Kipper. And I am James Himm Mitchell. And as I wrap up, I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me for these video readings. And I look forward to sharing the same space with you again down the line for our next string of video readings. So until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day. Take care.